All right, guys, so welcome to geometry. As I talked about earlier in the syllabus video, I want you to remember that geometry is probably new to most of you, and it's a lot different than the math that you've had to do before. So that being said, I want you to just forget everything that you've already learned or heard about geometry, and I want you to just get ready to learn everything as if you've never heard about it before. All right? So when we start dealing with geometry, we want to make sure that we understand all the definitions. There are a lot of definitions in geometry, so when I say, hey, this is a vocab word, you need to make a note of that. All right? So if we are looking at this first, sorry about that over there. If we are looking at these words here, it says geometry, we can only use what we learned from three things. Definitions, which are just vocabulary. Postulates, which are rules that we assume to be true. And theorems, which we have to prove to be true. Now, if we were in a traditional high school, we would prove a lot of more things. Maybe some of you have heard that geometry is all about proofs. But we, fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you would like to think about it, don't have a ton of time at the Excel Center, so we're not going to do a lot of proofs. Okay? So one of the things that I want you to think about when we are going through is, how does this make sense with what maybe I already know about geometry? Okay? So we have rules and we have theorems, and then we have what is called a point. Now, if you don't know what a point is, let me just tell you. It is a location that has no length, no width, no thickness. It is named with a capital letter. So we could say, one moment. We could say that we have point, point A. So it's a little circle, little dot, however you want to make it. And we put a little point there. So this might be point B. Okay. We could say that this then is point A. You also will have to forgive my handwriting on this thing. It is not the best. I'm going to try to do a little bit better for you. Okay. So that's point A. If I had another point over here, maybe we could draw it with a little circle, and I could say that this would be X. Notice it's a capital letter, which means that this would be point X. Okay? So the next thing is called a line. And a line is one dimension in length. Okay? It is a unbounded set of points. So that blank there is the word unbounded. So we will write unbounded. Set of points. Only 2 points determine a line. Okay, so we think about a line, we think about something that goes on and on and on forever. A line never stops. That's why we say that it's unbounded. All right, so a line is named with 2 capital letters with a line symbol. So let's draw a line first of all. Now, it is really important that you have arrows on the ends of your line. Otherwise, it's not a line. It's called a segment, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then you need 2 points anywhere on your line. The points are not the arrows, so please do not make the arrows and the points the same thing. This could be point A, and this would be point B. Remember, we talked about naming points with capital letters. So if I wanted to talk about this line and I said, hey, look at line AB, I would say this is line AB, and I would draw AB with a little line symbol above it. Or maybe I have another line over here that has 3 points on it. P, Q, and R. Remember that a line is named with only 2 letters. So it doesn't matter which 2 letters that you choose. So we could say that this would be line PQ. I could say that this is QR. We could also say that this is line PR. Or any mixture of the two. I'm sorry, 3. All right, you also can name a line. I'm going to erase this over here because I hope you already have it written down. You can also name a line with a lowercase letter. So let's say that we didn't have any points that were visible on this line, but we have a lowercase l. So this would be line L. And it needs to be a lowercase cursive. And I know some of you maybe are not great at cursive, so you're just going to do your best. Try the best that you can. Okay? Or if I had this line over here, and this might be lowercase p, so I could say that this is line P. So again, there are multiple ways to label a line or draw a line, whether with 2 capital letters or with a lowercase cursive letter. You're going to need to remember how to do this. This is going to be with you for the rest of your career in geometry, okay? All right, so let's go a little bit further. What happens, though, if I intersect 2 lines? Okay, well, if I intersect 2 lines, I'm going to fix my paper here to match yours a little bit. I tried to give myself some more room. Okay, to intersect means to have a point in common. So if I were to draw these 2 lines, we'll call this line L and this line M. Notice my lines have arrows on the end of it. The lowercase letters are not points. Okay, but then I could say that these 2 lines intersect here at this point. And we could call this point X if we wanted to. It's a point, so it's a capital letter. So 2 lines intersect at a point. That's the blank that goes there. 2 lines intersect at a point. All right, we say that 2 points are, this is a new word for you, collinear. Points are collinear if and only if they lie on the same line. Now, I want you to notice here, I have IFF. That is not a typo. IFF in geometry means if and only if, which means it's true going forwards and backwards. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on. Okay, so what is an example of collinear? So if we have 3 points that are on the same line, so let's draw 3 points here. I'm going to label this P, Q, and R. And let's draw a line through all 3. I could say that P, Q, and R are collinear. In fact, let's write that right here, and I'm going to see if I can scrunch the space. P, Q, and R are collinear. Now let's think about this word collinear. The root word, you see this, I have a line here. I have the word line in my word. And then I also have the word or the prefix co, and doesn't co mean together. Like if you think about a co-worker or co-employee, okay, that means together. So together on the same line. So oftentimes in geometry, we use vocabulary words that mean the same thing as what we're talking about, right? So same line, collinear, same line, all right? So then we have something to talk about. Points are what if they do not lie on the same line? Well, no surprise here, points are non-collinear. Collinear. Yes, that's a real word. Non-collinear. So, if we look at the word non-collinear, non means no, and we already talked that collinear means same line, so not on the same line. Now, when we talk about things being collinear, we talk about them as a whole. So let's go back over here to our drawing, and let's put point D out here. What we are allowed to say is that P, Q, R, and D are non-collinear. Now, I know we had just talked about, well, P, Q, R are all collinear, but when you include D into the mix, all four of them together are not on the same line, right? D is way over here off to the side. So we would say P, Q, R, and D are non-collinear. And again, even though PQR are collinear, we have to talk about them as a whole. So all four of them together are non-collinear. Okay, so collinear and non-collinear, those are both going to be vocab words for you. So make sure that you know those. All right, next page on the back, we have a plane. And we think of plane, sometimes students want to think of like an airplane. But a plane is a two-dimensional thing, length and width. If you think about it as a plane of paper, like the paper that you're writing on right now, it's a plane. It's got length and it has width. Okay? So when we think about a plane, okay, it is an unbounded, or we could say a boundless, that might be a better word for us to use there. I would say it is a boundless set containing points and lines. Boundless set containing points and lines. So any three non-collinear points determine a plane's location. So that just means if you have any 3 points that are non-collinear, then you have a plane. All right, so let's look at what this might look like. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to draw a plane, and when I say a plane, I'm just going to draw a slanted rectangle. I want you to do the same. Draw a slanted rectangle. So one of the things you're going to have to get used to in geometry is drawing things. I'm not going to ask you to be an artist, but I do want you to try and do your best at drawing things, okay? All right, so we have a plane, a slanted rectangle, and we need 3 non-collinear points inside the plane. So I'm going to draw a point here, label that A, B, and then C. Remember, they can't be collinear, which means I cannot draw them in a line together. Notice that the points that I drew were not on the edges. See, sometimes students draw points like this when they're drawing a plane. I don't want you to do that. That is not how we label a plane, okay? Planes are labeled with points that are inside the plane. All right, so then if we wanted to write it out, to label it, we could say that this is plane. We draw a little symbol, A, B, C. But it doesn't have to be in ABC order. We could say that this is plane C, A, B. Or we could say that this is plane B, C, A. And there's a few more, okay? But it doesn't, it's just any 3 points in any order that are inside the plane, that are non-collinear. Okay, another way we could label this is with a capital cursive letter. So if I want to talk about a capital cursive letter, this is similar to when we did the line with a lowercase cursive. So I'm going to use a capital cursive. So I'm going to use a capital L. And if you don't remember how to make an L, it's like this. Okay, that's how you make a cursive L. But it goes kind of by the edge of the plane. So then I could just say that this is also plane L. Remember, it is not a point that goes on the plane, it is just the plane itself. Alright, so let's look at another example of labeling a different plane. So let's go over here to the right side of your paper and let's draw another plane. Again, just a sideways rectangle, and I'm going to put a point P, Q, R, and I'm going to draw a line through PQR. Sorry, my points are not very obvious. And then I'm going to put point T over here. So if we were to label this plane, talk about this plane, we could say that this would be plane PQR. But what's the problem with having that as plane PQR? Think about that for a minute. What's the problem with that? Well, PQR, like we talked about, they're collinear. So if 3 points are collinear, you cannot label the plane with those 3 points. So this would not work. You cannot label that plane PQR. But instead we could say maybe this is plane PQT. Or plane QRT. Or plane PRT, any combination of the 3. You just cannot use PQR because it's collinear. Okay? Alright, so we say that two planes, intersect at a line. And sometimes that's a little bit hard to envision. So let's try to think about that. If I were to intersect 2 planes at a line, let's take a look over here. Okay, there's my one plane. I want you just to watch for a minute and then you can draw. And I'm going to do a dotted because it's going through that plane. If I had 2 planes like this that are going together, they would cross each other right here. And this creates a line. Okay, so 2 planes intersect at a line. And then we can think about a plane and a line intersect at a point. Okay, so let me erase this. This next question is a quiz question. So you might want to highlight that or mark that. This is a quiz question. A plane and a line intersect at a point. I need you to be able to draw this. So let's draw a plane. I'm going to call this plane capital B. Okay, it's in the corner there. It can be either be on the outside or the inside, but I like to put it on the inside. And I'm going to say I have a line that's going through this plane. And it hits at that point. I'll say that this is line P and this is point D. So as if I were to hold a piece of paper flat and I were to take my pencil and drive it straight through the paper, it would touch at a point. Okay, so again, I want you to be able to draw this on a quiz. Alright, so we can say if we have points that are on the same line, we knew that they were collinear. So if I have points that are on the same plane, we use this word coplanar. Again, co means together, and you see the word plane in planar. So if points are on the same line, on the same plane, they are coplanar. Likewise, if points are not on the same plane, they're going to be non-coplanar. Not on the same plane. So then we have this word called space, and we think about space as a boundless, and it's 3 dimensions: length, width, and thickness. So think about the area that we live in. This is in space. We're walking around in space. We're not like outer space, but I mean space, right? There's length, there's width, there's height. There's 3 dimensions to the space that we walk around in. A plane only has 2 dimensions, length and width, and a line only has 1 dimension, going length, and then a point has no dimension, it's just a location. Okay? So if you have any questions before we move on, Mr. Mark is here and he's available to answer any secondary questions after we've done these notes. We're going to take a minute and pause from the video, and I want you guys to work on 1.1 skills practice. It's already in your binder. I'm sorry, I think it's the study guide is the first one you have. So if you'll open your binder, you'll see 1.1 study guide and intervention. I want you to work on 1 through 10. All right? Do your best. Now, before you begin working, I need you to listen very carefully. In my class, you are not to write on the homework pages. All right? So you need to have scrap paper because you're going to turn that paper in. Or you're going to keep that paper in your binder. Now, if you don't have scrap paper today, there's some at the back of the classroom on that black tray cart thing, and you are always free to go help yourself back there. But please make sure that you are not writing on my homework, because I'm going to reuse these homework pages for the next class. That's why they stay in the little plastic sheets. So notes are for you to write on. Homework assignments, you do not write on it. It's like a textbook, right? When you were in high school, you didn't write on a textbook. Oh, man.